what do we mean by a feminine woman? I feel like the alpha, the ambition, the drive is kind of very clear, but maybe
Mhm.
we should describe to our listeners what exactly is in our mind when we think of what a feminine woman is.
Mhm. So, for me personally, and this might come as a shock to some people, is when I say this, but I truly feel like I am a feminist, but not the type of feminist that society puts with that word,
Mhm.
not that same matchup. I view feminism and feminine empowerment and all of that as, really tapping into our womanhood, tapping into simplicity and love and nurturing and being a mother, tapping into creativity and, just embracing who we are to our deepest core. I
Mhm.
feel like every woman has that and it just needs to be unlocked. So I'm a feminist in the sense that I want all women to embrace that, embrace their feminine energy because it exists for a reason. Like
Yeah.
we have this softer spot, we have this more like loving and nurturing ability to us, and that didn't just happen from chance. Like that happened for
No.
a reason, truly.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you brought it up as, like, it is something that is a part of us as women, a part of every single woman on this planet. It is, as we believe, how God created us, and I think that really also just emphasizes, like, I truly believe that God made us this way for a reason, and I honestly completely agree with you, Gutierrez, because I truly do think that is feminism at the heart. When you look
Mhm,
at what the word feminism is, as we just described, that's how we were innately born with those abilities, and I think where society went wrong was just how they changed the meaning of that word. You know, not to bring it back, but pre women's rights movements, pre 1960s, that time period, women really were dependent on the male. They didn't have much of a role, I would say. They didn't really have a value. They were kind of just there. I mean,
mhm,
obviously, I didn't live through that time period, but from what is preached in the history textbooks, that is how it is painted.
mhm,
So I can't be fact checked on that. But I do know that women really did have, little to any respect, like just really no respect. And I
mhm,
completely agreed with that movement. Obviously, we wanted equality, and I completely agree with that. But I think society kind of ran with it too far, and I think the initial movement was almost lost as it's progressed over the years. Like the
mhm.
initial want for a woman to just be something more than just no value
Just shows
is
respect, yeah.
yeah, just to have respect. That was the initial reason I think for the movement, and I think they can kind of completely lost that and went too far with it, whereas now they start preaching, "No, we wanted equality with men. We
Mm,
wanna be equal to men." Yes, but I think that they wanna be too equal in a sense of, "I can do the same job men can. I can go out and do this. I can do that. The man can stay home and cook." Like, that's what they meant by being equal, and I think that got lost in
mhm,
translation. And I really just do think that's where society took it a little too far because I don't think women were meant to be equal in a sense to a man as equal to do the same job, equal to go out and do this, equal to provide for the family. I think that they were supposed to be equal in a different way. I think they were supposed to be equal and as they brought a different sense of values to the table. Like the woman was the caretaker, the men went out and worked, and the woman stayed home and provided for the family. So the man had a nice warm meal to come home to, but he was the one able to pay for it because he did that long work. I just felt like it was such a great compliment between the
mhm.
2.
Yeah, like, a husband and wife that each like you just said, brought different values, different responsibilities to the table, and the woman was equally as important as the man, and that's still to this day. Like, I'm a firm believer in that, but I just feel like they have different values, just like you might bring different values to the table than I do in this podcast, right? So
Mhm.
I I believe that as well, and I think that might be controversial for some people to maybe hear, but it's not saying like, "Oh, we don't think woman can do the same thing a man can do." I'm not saying like you can't go get the same job a man can do. Like we've seen it. Women can outwork men too. Like that's
Yeah.
just how society is. But like you said, I feel like society has this agenda of like pushing it so much that we lose we lose a lot of those men wanting to do it
Yeah,
because they are trying to compete with the people they're also trying to start a life with and
exactly.
start a
And
family with. So it's like, what are they supposed to do? Back up and bow down, or try and take the upper hand on their wife, you know?
yeah, and I think that also leads to a problem with it today too. Like it's just as much in the hands of the men as it is in the woman. You know,
Mhm,
we can't blame all the women because there is a lack of alpha males out there. I
mhm,
personally think so, but I also think that there's a lack of feminine women out there. And because there's a lack on both ends, these pairs that are pairing up these days just aren't aligning. They're not bringing different things to the table, whereas they're bringing the same, and they're kind of lacking other things in their life. And
mhm,
I think it's like I just think what you said, like there's a lack of men wanting to do it because they don't have that woman at home, those kids at home that is nurturing, that is taking care of him to want to provide for. You know,
mhm.
he has a woman that may be out there working and girl bossing and thinking she's all that and thinking she doesn't need him. So what's his motivation then? You
Mhm,
know? Like
exactly.
so that's just a side point there, but I also wanted to touch on what you just said about kind of how feminists like what you said about how it can be perceived. I think a lot of feminists in today perceive as when men want to be the alpha, which is something that I so admire. I admire when a man wants to take control and wants to protect me and provide for me. I think it's a sign of love.
Well,
I don't take it as a sign of disrespect or that I can't do it. And I
no,
think go ahead.
because it's innately in them as well. Like, just like
Mhm.
we have these feminine urges innately in us, that's how men feel as well.
And I think women today perceive this completely wrong. I think they perceive it as a man telling a woman that we can't do it. We aren't able to work the same job as them. We're meant to be cooking and meant to be a mom because we can't do the same things that men do. And it's a form of toxic masculinity and all that. Everything that, you know, the feminist era really does say today. I think they're seeing it completely wrong. I don't agree with that. I think that it's truly like what we just said, out of love. It is their duty. It is the innate man and the innate alpha within them to want to do that. And I just would never get offended by that. And I think that's why most women, you know, they push woman empowerment, yet I feel like they're really empowering the wrong thing.